Welcome, everyone, to Navigating Life with Coach Lowe. I am so excited, as I always am, about my guest. I have my girl, Sundey Gardner, the travel BOSS, the travel boss is in the house, y'all. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who is joining in with us today. And I want to say thank you to you, Sundey, for joining me here on the podcast today. Please take a moment and just share with the audience who is Sundey Gardner, the travel boss.
So thank you, Lolita, for having me on. And so it is, I am Sundey Gardner, the online travel boss. And what I do is I help people who are passionate about travel take that passion and make a successful travel business out of it through online coaching, group programs, and I allow you to do that through training on how to launch, operate, and grow a successful travel business.
Woo! All right, so Sundey, that's what you do. Who are you? Where you come from? Who do you belong to? Who your babies? What's going
So
on?
okay, so non-professionally, what I do is I belong to God first and foremost. Secondly, I would think Otis Gardner claims me, who is my husband. I have three children. I have a 22-year-old daughter, and then I have two boys, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. So I have a freshman and an eighth grader in school. I've got 4 years almost after this school year left in my parent duty or sentence, as I call it. I am from San Antonio, Texas. Moved to the Dallas Fort Worth area after I graduated school in 1995. That dates me. So that brings me close to 50. I'm 48 this year. So um, I am an entrepreneur at the heart of my being. I've been so since about 2003 officially. Been hustling as an entrepreneur since high school. So
All right. All right. Well, thank you again, Sundey, for coming on. So today we are going to discuss, we're going to have the conversation around self fulfillment, people. It is the beginning of 2021. People are seeking and searching to find themselves, to find what really makes you feel alive on the inside. What's really going on with you? What is it that you need to say no to so that you can say yes to this? What are all of these things? We are going to talk about Sundey's journey on self fulfillment, becoming unapologetically who she is. So, without further ado, Sundey, please share with us a little bit about your backstory on your journey of becoming you. How did you land to the point where you needed to do some self-assessment to find out, this is not quite it? Tell us about that.
it's interesting that, for you, you also have named this podcast the journey. And that's kind of how I've always thought of myself, on a journey. And actually our theme this year is path to fulfillment. So it all is in alignment, I think, this
Wow.
topic and our theme for the year inside of my business. And so um, you know, from as far as I can remember, and probably it would be the late mid 90s when I graduated college, is kind of where I feel like that journey began. Because I always knew as a child I needed to go to college, right? I grew up poor, and I grew up just being beat into the fact that college was what I needed to do, and that would save me for the rest of my life. But the minute I graduated college, I was lost, and I was like, okay, now what? So I'm done. I did what you said. And now what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? Now, I graduated college when I was 21. And, I had hoped that I would be on the earth for a lot longer than that. So I was immediately graduated lost. I had a good job, by those standards in 1995. I got a great paying job. If everyone had looked at me, they would have said she was a success. She's a college graduate, the first in her family, and she's got a great paying job, and she has no children, and everything should be great for you. um but immediately at 21, I found myself in this job that I immediately did not like, and thinking, well, what am I supposed to do at night? Like, what am I supposed to do on the weekends? What am I supposed to do, period, with my life? So it was a feeling in my heart. It wasn't even like, oh, just kind of a general. It was like an empty sort of now what feeling. And I had that immediately when I moved here. And so I remember when I was, and my first job out of college was, I was an auditor. I was a an internal auditor for an oil and gas company. And so again, supposed to be a really great professional career. I was on the path to greatness by on paper. Just was not clear as to what I needed to do. So I knew I stayed in that job for a couple of years, 3 years, and then I moved out of accounting position into IT, and I found some pleasure in that. But I still had this sort of empty feeling of what it was I was supposed to do, and I couldn't find it. And so I tried to squash it with a bunch of different things, right? Hanging out with friends, trying to find that sort of uh rush that I had when I was in college when I competed. So in college, I was a debater. I was a college debater, a successful college debater. And I had this really strong thrill when I competed. So I thought that that meant I was supposed to become a lawyer. But I said, I don't want to go to school right after college because I'm tired of being broke. So I was like, I'm going to get a job for a couple of years and then I'll go to law school. And so I was still looking for that feeling that I had when I competed, and that sort of sense of purpose and all of that, and my job didn't give it to me. So I just sort of piddled around for like 5 or 10 years, just trying to figure out what it was I was supposed to do. And I don't really, at some point I think in my life during that time, I just sort of squashed the feeling. Like, there was no replacing the feeling. So it was sort of an unfulfilled feeling that I had for some years until we opened up our first. So, fast forward, I get married, and I don't know, Jesus, when did I get married? 2000, I guess, is when I got married. And then I thought that was going to be the answer. Getting married was going to be the answer. That was going to be the thing that was going to fill the sort of emptiness, not give me the same competition thrill that I had, but fill that sort of void that I was having. And it didn't. It didn't fill
Yeah.
the void. Uh, it just created a whole nother level of distraction against the void that I needed. Don't get me wrong. Love being married, love my children, love the life that I have as a mother and wife, but it did not fill the void. And so we quickly got pregnant, and then you have a child, and then we opened up a business, and then I thought, oh, starting this business gave me sort of that feeling that I had when I competed. So I was like, okay, starting the business is it. That's what the hell I was meant to do. Is I was meant to be a barbershop owner. That was it. Like that, I was like, yippee! I've found my shtick. And then I started operating the business. I was like, this is some bullshit. This is not my stick. Like, this is like I found it, but it was the starting of the business that I liked. So when it came to operating it, I didn't know what I was doing. Both my husband and I were winging it, and we fought, as I'm sure married couples who start businesses do, or just married couples in general. We had young children. I'm working a full-time job, and I'm still subsequently propelling my career. So I'd been jumping around. I finally get into, and I get into project management, and I like that, and that again in my mind sort of fulfills what I'm thinking.
So,
So that's kind of what got me to entrepreneurship, at least.
okay. So when I'm listening to your story, it sounds like you started a lot of really great things, and then in the operation of it you were like, yeah, this is not it. So it sounds like it was the day to day of the new business. It was the day to day of getting married, becoming a mom, and all of these things that you thought would fill that void or that empty space. It's like, okay, well, let's put this in and let's put that in and let's see what works. And these were none of those things. So, if you could say one single most outstanding thing in your mind that caused you to go on this journey of self-reflecting, what was that thing?
I don't know that it was one thing as a but as it was a accumulation of things. Um because I subsequently, like you said, added all of these things, and up until the time that I got married, it was just me. So I knew that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I knew that I wasn't so I thought that maybe if I just got married, not that I married him because of that, but I thought that marriage would be that thing that I was missing, and it would fulfill me in a way that I thought is what I needed. But marriage doesn't work like that. So it doesn't work like that. So you
Say
can't
it
come
again for the
to
people that didn't hear you in the back.
yeah, let me say that again. Marriage does not, you cannot assume that your spouse or your significant other will fulfill whatever void is missing in your heart or your life. Right? You need to come to that marriage already fulfilled or seek your own self-fulfillment. So I needed to suffer in the marriage a little bit of years to realize that. So I thought that if I had another person, I could share my life with them, and then I'd make it their responsibility to fill the void, and that doesn't work. That is a recipe for disaster.
And that is a huge weight. That is not the
Yes.
responsibility of somebody else. So that is a weight to, okay, well, we get married. And then that is a false expectation because it's like, okay, well, hey, here is what I expect for you to do, but I don't know that you expecting this of me. So it looked like I'm constantly failing because I don't even know what you want me to do.
Yeah, and I didn't marry the right either. So he was not like, he was like, I'm not, that's no, I'm not responsible for that. No, I'm not, even if you tell me, I'm not taking on all that extra. I got enough to take care of. So
Go, 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 husband. Go, oldest, you the man.
well, that's not the way I felt of him at the time. So I was pretty ticked off at him most of my early years in marriage. I was like, but you're not doing what I expected you to do. And he's like, I'm not accepting that responsibility. And I'm like, why? Why not? Like, that's what husbands are supposed to do. So we struggled in the beginning of our relationship because there was this repelling of expectations, and and same thing on his regard. He had expectations of me, and I'm like, I didn't sign up for that. Like, what? No, that's not what I'm doing. So when you're young, and and I am grateful though that we were able to come out of that stronger, and definitely still intact emotionally and physically, out of that. But those were very difficult growing pains for me and for him. Is those expectations, what we were missing in our lives could not be fulfilled by the other person, that's not their responsibility. I don't know that my husband's fully there yet, but I'm 100% there.
Well, I just love it that you got to a place of maturity in your marriage and in your personal life, that you understood that these expectations that I have, they are not real. A lot of these things that I believe, these are things that we have to work towards, and not just, push them and pound each other to squeeze something out of one another that is not there. And some of these things, some of
Yeah.
these expectations that we have in marriage, they are just, that is not the role and responsibility of your spouse. And
Yeah.
so I'm just so glad that you guys were able to get there. Not everyone has that. And I am sure that things have evolved and become better because of it. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, really good. And I hope that someone is that's married is able to hear that today.
Yeah.
So you were going on this journey.
Still
And
on it.
yeah, right, right.
Still on it.
And so you mentioned that, on paper or from the vantage point of other people from the outside looking in, you looked extremely successful.
Yeah.
And so you talked about chasing money in a season. Give us some background details about what that meant to you. You found yourself chasing money versus purpose and fulfillment in your life.
So, coming out of college and getting this great job, being an internal auditor, and then, just subsequently just not enjoying the job, not enjoying the people, not enjoying my life at all, I started chasing more money. In my profession was okay. So I would leave a job. I'd be there for I think the most I had been anywhere was 3 years at that time,
Mm.
3 or less, and then I would look for another position that would pay me more. So would give me more responsibility or was more aligned with what the job was. I knew that I never wanted to go into like leadership in the business. Like I never wanted to be a director, I never wanted to be an owner. And at that time, I never even thought I would be an entrepreneur. I was just like, you know what, if I can't figure out what I want, I need to make as much money while I'm figuring it out. So I that's what I did. I job hopped for years. I went to, just the best job that would pay me the most. I would get whatever skills I needed to get so that I would make the most. And not all money's good money and not all opportunities are best. But again, when you don't know what it is that you want, I I didn't know. I remember being pregnant with my second child, and I had gotten laid off during the pregnancy. I mean, when I was on maternity leave, and
Mhm.
I took a job. I went right back to work. I didn't. I think it was like week 5, and I got an opportunity to get a job. Made the as a consultant. First time I was a consultant, made the most money that I ever made professionally, and gave up that time with my child so I could go start this job. And it was a miserable mistake. It certainly propelled me. The one thing it did do is it allowed me to see that I could uh, to see my worth, at least on paper, that I could achieve getting 6 figures and that I was worth it. Cause there was a little bit of like, am I worth it? Like, should I be making this? Am I really talented enough to do this? So once I did it and I achieved it, then there's no going back. It's like I'm not making anything less than that. But I've made a lot of sacrifices on my family side after as a result of that. So if I had to do that over again, I would be confident in my knowledge that if I waited, I could still achieve it, and I didn't need to sacrifice the time, uh, right after having a child.
I love that. I love that because in anytime you are chasing success, I won't even say money, but when you are chasing success, you say no to this so that you can say yes to this. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately, so many families are sacrificed at the thought of, well, I have to provide this, or I have to do this, or this is a part of my journey and I have to do this. And there is no have to, and
Yeah.
you got to the place where you were able to look within you and say, hey, you know what? You have what it takes, and you don't have to accept this sacrifice. This
Yeah.
is what you need. You have to have your family. Your family has to be intact. And I talk to a lot of men that say, if I knew then what I know now about chasing success and what it would do to my family in my absence, or the things that I was distracted by back here in the world that took me away from my family. So it's so much. It's a whole lot. So I'm so glad that you talked about the family dynamic, because upon you having your last child, you talked about a pivotal moment that something happened within you. And Share, unpack that.
So I think that there, and this is something that I didn't mention before, and I think it's important to mention, particularly in the space that we're in now, is I've suffered from maybe 3 bouts of severe depression. And
Mm,
so after my third child was this third bout of depression that I went through, and it is, I think, as a result of not being fulfilled personally, professionally. And so after having him, my husband and I were having some difficulties in the relationship when I got pregnant with him. And so, I made a conscious decision to stay in the relationship because I had just found out I was pregnant. It was back to back to our second child. And I was like, I'm not doing this by myself. So I sort of felt stuck. And
yeah.
then I have my third child. And then, we've got this business. I'm working full time. I have a third child and we have a business. And it was just too much. And I'm not happy. And I'm not happy doing any of it. I'm not happy being a mom. I'm not happy being a wife. I'm not happy in my professional job. So I did go through a bout of depression. And during that time, I didn't, I don't know that I knew that I was depressed. Because I have struggled with depression pretty much my whole life. And I had, right when I got married, that was the second major episode right before I got married. Uh well, no, not second episode. It was maybe about a couple of years before my son, the third baby, was born. And during that time, like when he was young, it was probably about three years I struggled with that. And it was not like I didn't know that it was depression. Like I knew I just felt like shit like all the time. And I didn't know I was depressed. I mean, like, I didn't have that label to put it. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know exactly what was wrong. And so I was looking externally to the causes of what was wrong. Like I was looking, it's my husband, it's these kids, it's my job, it's all these things. And it was really, I was unhappy with me. I was unhappy with where I was. And so subsequently, during that time, my husband and I started gambling. So this was right after he was born. This is probably, I think, for one of our anniversaries, I took us to Vegas, and
Mhm.
then we came back, and I pretty much sunk into that whole world of gambling, the slots. And I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a casino, but it's dark in the casino, and it's the lights and the buzz is very rhythmic. So you go into that, and it's really like an escape from, like, reality and the world and everything. So it was very attractive to me because it allowed me to not think about how I was feeling. So I did that for some years, because I made great money, so I was able to, finance that, pretty relatively under the radar without people knowing. And frankly, I don't think many people know this, so I guess the cat's out of the bag now. But um that's kind of what was going on right after he was born. So it was probably a good 5 or 6 years after he was born. And then finally, I would say around 2012, 13, I had an assistant that was working with me. And we were having a meeting, and I'll never forget this. We were having a meeting, and I told her, I said, I can't sleep. Like I can't sleep. I just, all of these different permutations of what we need to do in the salon is like in my head, and I can't. And then I'm panicked about this, and she just simply said to me, it sounds like you have anxiety. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, anyway, get out of my face with that foo-foo stuff, right? I was like, that's crazy talk. Like, I don't know. Because and her story, just quickly, is she had twins that suffered from anxiety and ADHD and something. So she clearly was positioned to recognize it in someone else because she'd, been through all of this for some years with her twins. And so when she said that and she was describing to me what anxiety was, I was like, that is exactly how I feel. Like I
Yes.
wasn't sleeping. I mean, I could not have a full night's sleep and hadn't been sleeping for years, like having a full night uninterrupted sleep. So that time I then did visit someone to get some help and got on medicine, and that I think was part of where the change happened. Like I actually had my first night's sleep, and I still take this particular medicine to help me sleep because I do sort of, you know, the chicks in my head, they start going on overdrive and they don't shut up, and I just need them to shut up so I can sleep and get a good night sleep. And so that's kind of what happened when my last one was born. Is I was going through this depression. It was undiagnosed. It was, I didn't know how to handle it, and I utilized a lot of it was a painful time. It just was very painful. And then I, couple that with an addiction that doesn't that just exacerbated the problem. It didn't help it at all, obviously. So it was a big struggle that I would say the first 10 years of he's only 13, so we've only been 3 years in the red or the out of that. So it's not been a very long time since I kind of feel like I'm in recovery, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'm just glad that you were able to overcome that season. One of the things when we talked prior to our time together today, you talked about how gambling reminded you of a time when you were winning in college when you debated. You talked about how you were detached from your reality when you were gambling. And I think that these are things that people could really use. You talk about the anxiety and how you couldn't rest, and how the constant thoughts going on in your mind. And I believe that the average entrepreneur, the average mother, the average person that is a boss on any level, that's running anything other than their mouth, then they can you can find yourself moving into these places of anxiety and depression if you are not adamant about knowing what the telltale signs are, and soon as you know something is wrong, to get some help.
Yeah.
So to not try to self-diagnose and be like, oh, I'm fine, or whatever, or be in denial when someone who clearly knows what it is that they're looking at. But when it comes to mental health, we don't want anyone to tell us that we have an issue, you know,
No.
because there are so many
There's just such a
stigmas.
stigmatism to that.
Exactly. The-
Yeah, you don't. And being a black woman, you're supposed to handle it all.
yes,
You're supposed to be a superwoman. You're supposed to be able to, have 50 jobs, 50 kids, and and be able to service your man whenever he demands, and cook
whatever
fried
is
chicken and mashed
required.
potatoes and collard greens whenever on demand. Like that's what we're supposed to do. And I
Yes.
call bullshit on that. Like I'm not supposed to do that. I don't care what any other one wants to claim. I'm not doing it, and I'm not supposed to be the one doing it. And I think to what we talked about before is, during that sort of time, what happened at the time that I was sort of getting diagnosed with depression, and I was on medicine, and I was trying to stop gambling, and I was, we had lost so much. Like, so it wasn't like there was a happy ending to the financial story of the gambling. We lost a lot. We lost houses, cars. It was because that escape, since I wasn't getting help for the depression, the help that I had fall into was the casino,
Yeah.
because it allowed me to escape mentally from the feelings I was having, how bad I felt, what was going on in my life. I would be able to go into that thing for hours and just not have any thoughts about it. Because again, there's this sort of rhythmic, I think obviously it's all engineered on how they build the casinos and how the whole lighting is. I mean, it literally is like being in a dream of, and the sounds that are in there are just sort of lulling you into not thinking about what else you have to think about. So it was the comfort for me, during that time that I was undiagnosed, that I wasn't getting help, and I was seeking help. So I don't know that it fulfilled me and gave me the same thing as competition, but it dulled my senses. So to me, it was equivalent of taking a drug. Like if I had been high, I think going to the casino was that high. And I think it's just like, I've never been hooked on drugs, but what I've read about it is, it's never as good as the first high. And it's the same thing with the casino. It's never, once you get those first wins, you get this sort of adrenaline rush. And I've read about the psychology of what gambling does to your brain. It's equivalent to what drugs do.
Mm.
Like you get this high and it never is the same again, even when you're winning. So you just start throwing more money and more money and more time. And then it's a horrible cycle. Like you don't ever feel better. And then you feel worse than you did when you first started. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So I did that and I was in that sort of cycle, and we're losing things and things are just not doing well. I mean, I had to stop numbing that way and take a look at what was really going on, and that's when I sought help and sort of climbed my way out of that pit that we were in. And I say we because I think at some point my husband also, like, I think he was much stronger for repelling the draw. Like I think he was just really going to fun. Like he wasn't really addicted like I was, but at some point that it did overtake him, and I think it did become an addiction for him. But that, again, that's his story, not for me to tell.
Mhm.
But for me, once I started taking medicine and I stopped blaming him for the reason why I started gambling, because in my mind that he was the cause. Like if he had just done these 5 things, I wouldn't feel alone and I wouldn't need to have gone gambling, right? Once I stopped that bullshit in my head about it and just accepted responsibility for my actions on starting gambling and continuing it, forgiving myself for it and moving on, and then started to really decide, what, and I'm not 100% there. Like again, I don't want to be like, who, I'm on the top of this. It's still something I have to continually work on myself, that he's not responsible for my happiness. And so that shift, like I said, happened. I think for me, the one factor that did make the shift for me is I got really sick in 2013. So I'm gambling, I'm starting to take medicine and then I get sick. So I have a good job. Again, I have a 6-figure job. I'm doing well in this job, but I'm doing so many things. Like we had a barbershop, I had a salon, I have this full-time job. I think we were starting another business, a transportation business. And my body was like, if you don't sit down somewhere, just get it together. Go sit your ass down somewhere and reflect. And that's what happened. I had to sit down somewhere. I got sick. I always had a swollen noid. My thyroid had grown into a noid, but it was growing backwards and it was choking me. So I got sick, got bronchitis, and then I'm getting choked out by my thyroid. And I have to get surgery and get it removed. And so I get it removed, and I don't treat it as an organ, like I lose an organ. I thought, oh, I had surgery, I'm good. And I tried to go back to work, and it knocked me back on my ass again. And I had to sit down and I had to give up stuff. I had to start, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have gotten better. So during that time, I gave up the salon, and I focused on my boys, and I got them in sports, and I still had other entrepreneurial small things I was doing, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna be a football mom. I'll be a football mom and a soccer, and I'm just gonna work my one job. That's it.
This is
That's what
good. This is good. So you said a number of things that I think are just so, so very important, and I don't want people to miss it. You talked about how your husband was not responsible for your happiness. Boom, you could drop the mic right there. Like for real, for real. Because I believe that so often in relationships, we're looking for someone to make us go. And it's like, if you don't have that, then I really don't want to be your friend, let's known your husband, your wife, your anything where we really attached, you know?
yeah.
So that is one thing. The other thing is that when you are juggling all of these different things in the air, you have all of this stuff that is going on in your life. You mentioned at least four businesses
I was,
outside.
it was, I mean, and it was a chase that I didn't even like, when I talk about it now, I think to myself, that is the craziest thing I was doing back then. Like, what psychotic person does that? Right. But again, I'm chasing after this feeling, but I didn't even know that I was in the chase. Like, I didn't even know I was in a race. Like, I didn't know that until I look back on it. And it really was, I was chasing that feeling. I didn't know it until I stopped and I was like, why would anybody work at that level? Like, what? And the problem with that is I trained my husband to expect that of me. So
Yeah.
the last several years have been untraining him to expect that of me. I'm like, that's not me. I don't do that anymore. Like, he's like, but you, I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm not doing 50 things anymore. He's like, but no, that's not me. I don't know. I'm sorry. My bad.
Good job. So saying no, no is a very, very powerful, small, short, two letters.
That's a power punch.
No,
No,
no. No
no.
is necessary to preserve us.
Yeah,
Because if we don't preserve us, then we can't be the football mom. We can't be the wife. We can't be a loving mother. We can't be effective in the workplace. We can't be happy with us
yeah,
because we are expending all of this energy outwardly, but we are not filling back up
that's right.
because we doing all of this stuff that don't even cause us to feel purposeful,
That's
you
right.
know? So it's like, okay, well, what do I do for me again? So
Nothing. That
I
was the
want
answer
to
always.
encourage everyone who's listening today, ask yourself, what did I do for me today? What did I say no to so that I could do something for me today? And if you have not said that or found out what that is that you can say no to, figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out because you cannot be everything to everybody else and then think that you are going to thrive. You cannot, it is
Nope.
impossible. And here you have my friend Sunday, who was set down because she had all of this stuff weighing down on her and she was doing her very best to carry it, but it was not required. And it caused illness in her body and she had to drop all the balls. And she selected what she was going to utilize or who she was going to become. She made that decision. She decided that she was going to find out what it was that she wanted to do. And I want to encourage you, the listener today, to do likewise. Sunday, you talked about so much, and I mean it is just all so phenomenal. And when I think about everything that we can do as mothers, wives, as business owners, as boss ladies, whatever it is that you want to call it, those things sound attractive, but there is responsibility that comes with all of it. And when you talked about taking personal responsibility, it's so many people that they just won't.
No.
They just won't. Huh?
You're right. You're absolutely right. I said you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and but it's crazy and it's a really ridiculous cycle because we need to be able to say, hey, you know what, this was on me and this is something that I really need to work on and correct because this is not my spouse's fault. This is not the kids' fault. This is my fault. I have taken these things on and I have decided that this is what I'm going to do and this is what it looks like next.
Yep.
So you talked about anxiety, you talked about depression, you talked about illness. So today you have gotten better as you have journeyed on.
Yep.
You have gotten better, you have healed in some things. And so what do you do on a daily to self-care? If it's not daily, then monthly. Give us some ideas about things that we can do as entrepreneurs, as moms and dads, as husbands and wives, as whatever, business owners, employees, because employees need to say no sometime too. With
Yeah.
these people working from home, they don't want you to disconnect from this. You know, it's just, do you know I have children and a
Yes.
husband and a whole lot of other responsibilities other than the workplace? And so yeah, so share with us, what is it that you do to take care of Sunday?
So, had you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I'd say I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, and I know that that's something that I struggle with. So I would say now I'm certainly happy with what I'm doing professionally, but personally, I still know that there's not always a balance that I create because I am a workaholic. So I do still throw myself into something. And it's work. And so I know that as a result of that, I need to create balance. So I'm always seeking ways to do that. So what I'm currently doing is just as I shared with you before we started, is I'm reading a book called The Miracle Morning. And inside of that book, there are 7 things that you should start your day off with. And those things are really for me. They're not for my clients, my family. They're really about grounding me and making me feel at peace and good. And those things are really helping me. So the 7 things are practicing silence or praying in the morning. So that's what I'm doing. I get up earlier, which is another thing. So I'm getting up about 2 hours earlier before I start my day.
Mhm.
Doing daily affirmations. Visualizations is the third one. Exercise, reading, and journaling, scribing. So it's called Savers. So those things right now are the things that I'm doing for Sunday. And those are non negotiable things that I'm starting my day off with to help me ensure. And so, thus far, as I've been doing them, I've only seen great results. I feel more energetic. I feel like my day is starting off well. I'm getting more accomplished. I'm not working past 6 o'clock. So that's another thing I'm doing is I've stopped. I've rearranged my schedule so I'm not doing work or committed to work. So I don't have meetings after 7. I got my hair done without my laptop the other day. That was great. There was all sorts of, so these are things that I'm doing for myself that will create balance. And so I'd love to do a check-in with you to see how things are going. But these are just new things. It's a continual journey for me to create that balance in my life.
That is so awesome. I love all of the things that you mentioned. And I don't have the 5 a.m. morning, but I do all of those things. And so I love that. And it is so necessary for us to do something for us. One of the things that I would like to share with you to add to what you do is to do something special for yourself. I don't know if you like being touched, but if you don't mind being touched, add a massage to your regimen at least once a month. If you find that you want to go more often, to have tension massaged out of your muscles and parts of your body, some of the pain that is released from you, some of the mental blocks sometime that we have. There are so many things that happens amidst massage. And
Yeah.
so for anyone who is an entrepreneur, if you are taking on more than you can handle, if you know just your regular rhythm of life causes you to wear many hats, whatever the case may be, implement these things, implement them. Say the five again, Sunday. Silence.
Savor, silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing.
Yes. And massage.
And massage. So I like that.
Get your massage.
I do like that because last month I did get a massage. I guess in November when I was on vacation, and I said that I would start doing that, and I haven't done that. So I will absolutely take that as an action item and a challenge to do that going forward on at least monthly. I agree with you.
Good. That's awesome. Okay, so Sunday, any final words? Drop some nuggets on us, girl. What you got for us? I know you got some wisdom keys for us. What you got? Any final
So
words?
so the only thing that I would end this conversation with is one, thank you for having me on, Lolita. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.
But the only thing that I would say is you get one life and you get one opportunity to live it to your fullest. And the biggest lesson out of this journey that I've been on, my own personal journey, is I don't know anybody anything but me. End of story. Family, friends, it doesn't matter. I owe it to myself to live the very best life that I can live, and to do the things that are going to allow me to do that, whatever that may be. Now, I don't advocate hurting anybody or anything, but you have one life. And you should be extraordinary at it. So do extraordinary things and take extraordinary risks to do it.
I love it. Now that's what I'm talking about. That is I love the way you said it. That's really good. Be extraordinary at your life. Look, y'all
That's
don't
right.
be doing no mediocre foolishness.
No mediocre foolishness.
Y'all be Everybody want to get on social media talking about living my best life in the moment.
Mhm.
But when you're living an extraordinary life, you do something daily, moment by moment. You are just enjoying your life. Not that things won't go wrong, because I'm sure that she can attest that challenges are going to find you. I don't care where you try to hide.
That's right.
Challenges are going to find you, but it's even in how you respond to the challenges, right? You know
That's right.
that you still doing something extraordinary. You don't have to start drowning in your emotions when challenges come. you know Sit down, think about it, take it in. When I take it in, um reason and think it through. What am I coming up with? Pray about it. It's so many different things that you can do, but we don't have to be reactive. We can be proactive about living our best life. And
This is
that
true.
is what my girl over here, Sundey Gardner, the travel boss, is talking about. So thank you so much for being my guest, Sundey. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on and just talking through the importance of self-fulfillment, um, and becoming unapologetic about living your best life. That's everything. So thank you again, and thank
Thank
you
you.
so much to the audience for listening in. I hope that you will leave some comments. I hope that you will love it, that you will subscribe, give me some thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And I am just so excited about everything that is happening. Take your time, listen, take some notes, do what you can, but do not just hear this and not allow it to change your life. I put this work in, she put this work in, Sundey put this work in on purpose. She's not sharing her story just for you to know some information, to gain some knowledge. Yes, knowledge is power, but if you are just a hearer and you are not doing something different, nothing will change about your situation. So in order for Sunday's situation to change, she had to do some different things. She had to implement some different things. She had to pause. She had to be sat down. She had to go through a lot of different steps. And guess what? She makes it easier for you. You don't have to go through all of that. You can listen to this podcast message and you can see where you find yourself in it and make some adjustments in your life. So that is going to be all for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night. Bye bye.